Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. What are we exploring today?
Today, we're going full-on detective mode.
Ugh.
We're going to be digging into some pretty interesting clues hidden right there in the Old Testament.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
It is. We're talking about prophecies, specifically ones about the Messiah. And get this, we're going to see how they seem to line up with what's described in the New Testament.
Okay, I'm hooked already. Prophecies and their fulfillment, always a fascinating topic.
I know, right? And the sources we've got lined up, oh boy, they're packed with some really specific predictions. I can't wait to get into it.
So where do we begin?
Well, let's start with one that always blows my mind. Are you familiar with Micah 5.2?
Yeah, it mentions the Messiah being born in Bethlehem. Okay.
Exactly. But hold on, it gets even more specific. It actually says Bethlehem Ephrathah.
Bethlehem Ephrathah. Why would that little detail matter so much?
It's like imagine someone saying, "Oh, a future president will be born in the same town as like, I don't know, Abraham Lincoln."
Right, that would definitely narrow things down, make it way more significant.
Exactly. And with Bethlehem Ephrathah, well, it wasn't just any Bethlehem. That was King David's birthplace.
Ah, so it's connecting the Messiah directly to King David's lineage.
Big time. And guess what? This connection, it pops up again in the New Testament. Matthew 2.1. You've got the arrival of those astrologers in Bethlehem looking for, well, the newborn king.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it. Prophecies made centuries earlier seemingly coming true.
It really is. And speaking of specific predictions, you know that line in Psalm 22.8, one about the Messiah's clothes being divided and gambled for?
Yeah, it always seemed like such a strange, random detail to include.
Totally. But then you turn to John 19.2324, and bam, you see Roman soldiers dividing Jesus' clothes among themselves. They even cast lots for his seamless tunic.
It's like watching the prophecy play out right in front of you.
I know. It's
Ah.
incredible, right? But why include something as specific as clothing in a prophecy?
It might have been to really solidify that link between the prophecy and when it actually happened.
Yeah.
Make it undeniably specific.
Okay, that makes sense. Like if it was just his possessions will be taken, that could mean anything.
Exactly. But saying they divide his clothes and cast lots for his tunic, that's so particular. And actually, that detail also fits with what we know about Roman soldiers at the time.
Oh yeah. How so?
Well, dividing up the spoils of war, like clothing, among themselves, that was pretty standard practice for them. So it kind of grounds the whole event in the historical context.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it like that. That's a really cool connection. But this next prophecy, it takes a bit of a somber turn. Psalm 34.20, it says, none of the Messiah's bones would be broken.
Yeah, that one at first glance might seem a little odd, but then when you consider the Jewish custom back then,
You mean with crucifixion?
yeah, it was
Right.
common practice to break the legs of those being crucified to speed up the process of death.
Oof, grim stuff. But it makes the prophecy way more significant.
Exactly, because in John 19.33, the soldiers found Jesus already dead, so they didn't break his legs.
Wow, it's like this event was almost planned out centuries in advance.
It does make you think, doesn't it?
It does. And we got to at least touch on the symbolism here. The whole Passover lamb thing.
Hmm.
So listeners might not be familiar with that. Can you quickly explain the connection?
Sure. So in Jewish tradition, the Passover lamb was super important. They sacrificed it every year to remember God sparing the Israelites from death in Egypt. Now, this lamb, it had to be perfect, no blemishes, and get this, no broken bones.
Okay, I'm seeing the parallels here.
Right. And it kind of foreshadows Jesus. He's often called the Lamb of God, the perfect sacrifice for the sins of the world.
So that little detail about unbroken bones, it ties into a much deeper meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every little piece can be layered with symbolism and significance.
That's amazing. There's another prophecy in Isaiah 53.5, and this one is it's powerful. It says, "He was pierced for our transgressions." Just hits you right in the feels.
Doesn't it? In John 19.34, it describes that piercing. A Roman soldier pierces Jesus' side with a spear.
Makes you realize prophecy isn't just about predicting the future, it's also about conveying deeper meaning.
You got it. And even just from a medical perspective, the fact that it mentions blood and water coming out of the wound, well, that's what happens when the heart's pierced.
It all ties together in such an incredible way. All right, last one for today. Zechariah 11.113. This prophecy says the Messiah would be betrayed for, get this, 30 pieces of silver.
Yeah, talk about a specific detail.
Right. In Matthew 26.1415 and 27.5, it describes Judas agreeing to betray Jesus for, you guessed it, 30 pieces of silver.
Every piece of the puzzle just slots right into place. So we've gone through a bunch of prophecies, and they all seem to point to Jesus. What do you think? What do we make of this accuracy across centuries?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Does it make you think differently about the Bible, about its divine inspiration maybe? Does it make you consider Jesus as the Messiah? Or is it just a fascinating look at how old texts and historical events can line up?
Yeah, those are questions everyone has to grapple with on their own.
Exactly. But even if you're not like super religious, you got to admit this stuff is pretty thought-provoking. If this has piqued your curiosity, I definitely encourage you to do some more digging into biblical prophecy. Who knows what other connections you'll find?
That's what I love about this stuff. Always more to discover.
Totally. Well, that's all the time we have for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us, and keep those minds exploring.